Hello and welcome to Dish Shelved with Adam White. Today I'm going to be talking about Triptych, the first Will Trent book by Karin. Uh, Really good book. I saw the television show when it premiered a couple weeks ago and thought, that was an interesting show. I wonder how it said it was based on a book series, so maybe I should check that out. So I downloaded the sample and read it and was just engrossed in it by the time I got finished with the sample. So I went on and got the books. Now I'll show you this. Um, I got a set of the first 7 books in the series. This is book 2, but for some reason they didn't have the cover of book 1, so I couldn't show you. But you'll also notice that I'm showing you on an iPad, or not an iPad. I don't know where my head is. This is a Kindle Scribe, with a new addition to my technology here. And it is a great device, just as an aside. I really enjoy reading on it. The battery life's not quite as advertised. It, I've gotten down to about 50% just reading one book. This is the first book I've read on it. I like it though. I really like the screen size, and the text can be big because my eyes are bad, and you can still feel like you're reading a full page of text every time you read a page though. Really great backlight on it. I like using the pen to tap to move pages, and I haven't tried out the writing feature very much yet, but I may talk more about it in the future if I do. But I just, as an aside, wanted to say that I'm really pretty pleased with my Kindle Scribe. Anyway, back to Will Trent. This is the first book, Triptych, in a series of, I believe, about 11 books so far. The last one came out, I think, a couple years ago, so it may be time for a new one, hopefully. But uh, anyway, the story is told through several narrators. The first is Detective Michael Ormwood, and he is a Atlanta detective. He's got a wife and he has a son with mental disabilities, and he's struggling to make ends meet. And the first part of the story is told through him, and you just kind of get to see his life and the case he's working on, and you're introduced to Will Trent, and you get to see Will Trent kind of from an outside perspective. And Then the second part is told through John Shelley, who is a convicted uh, pedophile, rapist, murderer, and which immediately makes you dislike him. But the interesting thing that Karin Slaughter does is she makes him sympathetic, and you really kind of root for the guy as you're going through it, because you're like, oh man, this is a bad situation for him. And it really makes you see things from his perspective. And I don't want to say a whole lot because I don't want to give anything away, but uh, it's amazing she can take a character like that and make you feel sympathetic towards him, even though you know what he's done. And so she does a really good job of that. She's really good with characters. And then the last 2 characters are Will Trent and Angie Pulaski, who have a shared back history of going through the foster care system and not having a very good time of it. But they've both become cops. She's a vice detective, and Will Trent is a Georgia Bureau of Investigation agent. And they are, the last part of the book is told through them. And then as it gets towards the end, you start seeing all their chapters they kind of all come together at the end. But this book is really interesting. It's not like anything I've read. You kind of get different. It made me think of the film Rashomon by Akira Kurosawa. You're kind of getting some of the same events told through the eyes of different people, which is kind of where the Triptych title comes in. You're seeing it through three different ways mainly. And it just is a really interesting book. Now, I will say that it's not for kids. There is a lot of brutal violence in it, especially towards women, but it's not gratuitous at all. I mean, it's written by a woman, so um, there's nothing gratuitous about it. It's kind of a harsh reality of the world that she brings into her story, because stuff like this that goes on in here does happen all the time. And so even though it seems brutal and uh, you want to feel distance from it, you know that it does happen, and that makes it all the more real while you're reading this book. Now, Will Trent is a really interesting character. He uh, is dyslexic. That's not really giving anything away. They say it pretty well early on. So he has trouble with reading and stuff. So he always has trouble with reading police files and stuff. He records conversations so he can uh, follow them later, so he doesn't have to read or take notes or anything. He has an interesting relationship with Angie Pulaski. They both had, like I said, a shared history of going through the foster system together, and so they've known each other most of their lives. And I won't say much about that either because I don't want to give anything away. This book had my jaw agape at a certain point because of sort of a reveal as to who the villain is, even though you sort of know who's who set up, because you've got your detective, you've got your bureau agent, you've got your vice detective, and you've got the rapist murderer. And so you think you've got everything set up the way that you're going to see, and you think, well, this is kind of obvious. Well, then she drops a bomb on you partway through the book. And uh, I just thought it was really interesting because, I mean, I'm a pretty jaded reader. I've read lots of cop dramas and mystery novels, and I've watched all the cop shows and movies. So, I mean, I feel like I usually have a pretty good handle on stuff that's going on, but I really didn't see it coming. I should have. The clues were there, but and she drops it midway through the book. And so then it's the rest of the book is about what is really happening, but the characters don't. So you see them get to unravel this mystery, and it's a really interesting way that she does it. And you see where former things in the book come to play later in the book, and she really has an interesting story to tell in this. And I really liked it, and I'm really looking forward to reading more books by her. I'd never read a book by Karin before, but this first Will Trent book was just truly excellent. And and it just is a really good book. If you like detective mysteries at all, like I said, the mystery part of it kind of comes out partway through the book, and it's mainly about the characters, and you see people that are all broken in some way, and how they make their lives matter to them despite being broken in some way. And some of them, they do positive things because of it. Some of them do things that are very negative. And but you have all this cast of broken people, and it's a really interesting character study. And that's what I think really is the strongest part of the book, is the characterizations of all the main characters. Uh, anyway, it's a really excellent book. I highly recommend reading it. Like I said, if you have an aversion to, like I said, you've got rapist murderers, so I mean, that's a fair trigger warning there. Uh, but like I said, it's not gratuitous in any way. It's just there's enough of it there to show you the brutal reality of what's happening, and set up what is happening in the plot. Uh, but it's a really good book. I highly recommend it, and check out the TV show too, because I thought it was pretty good. But I like the book better as usual. But anyway, uh, Triptych by Karin, the first Will Trent novel. Check it and the whole series out. I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. And thanks for hanging out with me, and I will see you next week.